Hello and welcome back to another Flutter tutorial. In this video, I'll be showing how to properly handle error messages in Flutter. So in this demo, we'll be doing a sample service call and handle error messages related to that. Okay, so for that, we need the HTTP package, add it in the pubsec YAML file and call Flutter packages get to install the package. So here I have an empty screen right now, which I added in the main.dart file. Now for this demo, we need to call a service. So I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to name it services.dart and import the HTTP package, which we need to call the service, and a convert package to parser JSON and class services. So let me grab a sample URL. Okay, so we have it now. So static constant string URL is equal to our URL. Okay. As you can see in the response, it's returning a list of user records. So we can see the ID, name and email. So let's create a model class for that. I'm going to name it user.dart and class user, which will have integer ID, string name and a string email, and a constructor which will accept all those parameters. Okay, now we need a factory method, user.fromJSON. Okay, with the JSON as parameter, and we're going to return a new user by extracting the parameters from the JSON. So we will get the ID like that as integer, and next one is name and email. Okay, now let's go back to our services class and create a method which will return a future list of users. I'm going to call it get users. This is an asynchronous method, so let's import the user. Here we will be using the try catch method to catch all the errors, but that may not be the right approach to do if you are working in large projects. Okay, so let's start with this one, and in a short while we will see how to do this properly. Okay, so let's get the data from the URL, and let's check if the status code is 200. So we are going to check if the response dot its status code. So response dot status code is equal to 200. Then what we are going to do is we are going to return a list of users that will be coming in the response body. So we will be writing a method parse users which will accept the response body as parameter. Okay, and we're going to return that list of users. Okay, otherwise if the status code is not 200, we're going to return an empty list of users. Okay, so here whatever exception or error comes, that will be caught by the try catch block. Okay, so what we will do is we will just throw the exception with the message from the exception. Okay, that will be e.message. Now let's write the parse users method. Okay, static list of user parse users string response body, and final parsed is equal to json.decode with the response body dot cast and with a map of string and dynamic. Okay, now return parse dot map. So let's map each JSON object to a user, and don't forget to return the list. So convert it to list. Okay, so here comes the from JSON method. Okay, so now we have the list of users. So let's import the services and user in the home screen, and let's declare a variable future list of users and override the init state method and assign users is equal to services.getUsers. So we have the list of users now. Now let's show the users list in the UI. So return a future builder with a future users. So this future will be triggered when the users is assigned. Okay, so the builder will have the context and the snapshot. So let's check if the snapshot has data. Then list of users is equal to snapshot.data. We need to return a widget here. So let's return a column widget with cross-axis alignment, start, and the children property. We are going to map the list of users. Okay, for each user, we are going to return a padding widget with padding 10 and a child, which is a text with user.name and style. Let's set the font size to 20. Okay, let's call this function in the build method. Okay, so let's see what happens in the simulator. So the error is because we have not handled the error conditions here. So you can see the warning in the builder property. Okay, so let's check if the snapshot dot has error. We're going to return a text widget with an error message. So the function show error will return a sender widget with a text with a message. Okay, so if the snapshot has error, we are going to return a text widget with snapshot dot error string. Okay, so that's working. So let's add one more thing, a progress indicator while the snapshot has data or error. Okay, so now you can see the progress bar while the data is being loaded. Okay, so let's go back to our services class, and now instead of returning the users, we are gonna throw an exception. So let's throw socket exception with a message, let's say no internet. Okay, so let's see what happens. So if you refresh the app, you can see it's saying exception no internet. That's because the try catch is catching that exception and sending it as a exception instead of socket exception, and it's directly printing the exception. Okay, so let's fix that. Let's show the proper error message and catch the proper error. Okay, now let's go back to our services class, and you can see we are throwing a socket exception, right? So we need to catch the socket exception. So for that, actually we need to do something like this. We need to call on socket exception, and you can optionally have a catch and a parameter. So the socket exceptions will be caught here, and we can catch it or we can rethrow it like this. So let's see what happens. So restart the app, and you can see that it's a socket exception, no internet, right? Because we are directly printing the exception. So let's see how we can customize it. So we want to throw our own exception when something happens. So for socket exception, let's say we are going to throw our own custom exception. Let's say no internet exception. Okay, so let's create a new file. So I'm going to name it exception.dart. Okay, so I'm going to create a class which will be no internet exception. Okay, so for simplicity, I'm just uh, setting a message and a constructor which will accept this message. Okay, so in your exception, have a it can have an error code or something like that. Okay, so the beauty of Dart is it uh, helps you to throw your own class as an exception. So let me import that and show you. Okay, exceptions, and instead of rethrow we will call throw. no internet exception with our custom message. Okay, no internet. So let's see what happens now. Restart the app. So now you can see that it's an instance of no internet exception. So let's go back to the UI and we're going to check if the snapshot dot error is no internet exception. Okay, now declare a variable and get the error. Snapshot dot error has no internet exception, and we will show the error in the text. So return show error with the message. So that will be no internet exception dot message. So no internet message will be coming here. Okay, so if you refresh that, you can see that we have the no internet message now. So let's go back to our services class and catch the other errors. So on, so let me add HTTP exception. Okay, so I am removing the catch here and add another exception class. No service found exception with a string message and a constructor that will accept the message. And another exception, invalid format exception in the similar way. Okay, and call on format exception. Okay, now we need to throw our exceptions, right? Okay, so throw no service found exception with a message no service found. And similarly for format exception, we are going to call throw invalid format exception with a message, let's say invalid data format. Okay, now if I change the exception to throw HTTP exception and if I restart the app, you can see that now it is the instance of no service found exception. So let's go back to the UI and catch it. Okay, so that will be no service found exception, and change the variables. Okay, all right, so the next if condition is for invalid data format exception, invalid format exception. Okay, okay, so let's see if that works. So restart the app. So you can see now the message is no service found. Okay, so if I change that to format exception, the message will change to invalid data format. Okay, so what if I change that to invalid data format exception? So what happens here is it will be caught by the final try catch, the catch block, because we don't have a or no internet exception catch block, right? So what will happen is it will go to the final catch block and it will throw a normal exception with a message. So that's why you see it as exception and the message. Okay, so let's go back to our exceptions file and add one more class. Let's say unknown exception. Okay, and in the services class, in the final catch block, we're going to change the exception to unknown exception. with a message. Okay, so let's change that to throw exception with no internet message. Okay, so we need to add one more if condition, that will be unknown exception. Now if I restart the app, it's going to say no internet, right? Okay, so if I change the message to unknown error, okay, the message is updated now because we are getting the message from the exception in the final catch block. Okay, now let's go back to the main file and we can see that we don't need this return statement. Okay, we're going to get rid of the final if condition because we are catching all the exceptions other than the above as unknown exception, correct? Okay, now we have the same result as previous. Okay, now let me comment out the exception and return the list of users. Okay, so that's working good. And we are gonna do one more thing. We'll check if the users list is empty, then we are going to show a message. Let's say no users, show error no users. Okay, so let me, okay, so I have to change the status code so that it will go to the else condition. Okay, okay, that works. So let me undo that. Okay, so that's how we can catch errors in a cleaner way. So now we have a clean set of code in the UI. So you can have your own meaningful exceptions and you can throw your own object as exceptions in Dart. So this makes your code much more cleaner and readable. Okay, so that's all in this video. If you found the video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Hit the bell icon for notifications. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.